Hello and greetings. Welcome to your next Pilgrim of the Path podcast episode. And just before I continue talking, if you hear some noises in the background, it might just be we are experiencing very strong winds here in McGregor. So, yes, I had the option of postponing this podcast episode, but I thought, you know what? No, let's just carry on. So if you do hear a bit of background noise, that is our friend the wind. Um, or as I call it in my children's stories, Vayu, a friend of Mother Earth. But anyway, um, yes, so where am I? Oh, yes, okay, next episode. So before we explore the message of today and what I would like to share with you um, about expressing ourselves honestly and with integrity, I would just like to share a little piece of very exciting news. And I'm so happy to share with you that I've just released my second mindful children's book. It's called Mother Earth and the Water Keeper. The first book was Mother Earth and the Stone Guardian. Um, so, if you can see, there's a trend because I'm actually exploring the five elements with the books. So, we started with Earth, now we're going to the element of water. So, anyway, so this story, it's just discovering the magic of water, but again also discovering sparkles in the water and exploring how water um, invites us to flow with life. So yeah, so mindfulness, imagination, and of course the connection with nature and Mother Nature. And like my first book, it is accompanied by a narrated sound story of me telling the story with sounds, also a guided meditation, sound meditation, and printable mindfulness cards to create a calming and a shared experience for the children and their families, and actually moments of stillness and reflection. You can actually use these cards any time of the day. So if you would like to learn more about it, I'll drop the links below to my website where you can view the book and purchase the book. Otherwise, you can watch the trailer. There's a trailer I've put on YouTube, actually for both books. But yeah, so you're welcome to look at that. And now, for this week's reflection, again, before we explore on how to express ourselves and communicate with honesty, I would like to just bring to your mind something that we've explored in my membership this week, and it's really contemplating and reflecting on the four qualities of an awakened heart, so that our speech um, and our ability to express our authentic voice with honesty, so that can arise in alignment with our intentions, as our thoughts are the starting point of our communication. So like I said, my membership, we explored those qualities, or we can call it the four immeasurables, which is loving kindness, compassion, joy, rejoicing, and equanimity or equality, seeing everybody as the same, all beings the same. So these qualities are more than just, simply philosophy or ideals. They are actually an integra an important let me put that important part of taming and training the mind, of creating the thoughts. The quality, because the quality of our mind influences the quality of our experiences, right? So our thoughts, our intentions, our attitudes influence the lens through which we see ourselves, others around us, and also the bigger picture of many, many people around us that we don't even notice that's around us. So, because if our mind is filled with negative emotions or feelings of or perceptions of judgment, fear, comparison, uh, um, aversion, resentment, or desire, greed, and all of those things, we naturally begin to see our life through that lens. So, and our actions or our words become manifestations of those thoughts. And our experiences become a little bit more negative, and they are, yes, let put it that way, it becomes negative. And we create suffering through that. So our conversations become reactive instead of observing objectively, right? Our words become comes from a place of fear, of judgment, of defensiveness, and we find ourselves actually speaking from habit rather than awareness. But when we consciously cultivate feelings or thoughts and qualities such as loving kindness, compassion, joy, rejoicing, and equanimity, something begins to change. Our perception changes, and as our perception changes, so does the way we communicate. So our words become a reflection of the mind, because it starts with, well, it actually starts with a spark, then the thought arises, and then that becomes what we speak. And what we speak become our actions. But anyway, we're talking about communication now. So it begins with the quality of the heart and the mind from which our words arise because of our thoughts. So before entering an important conversation that we feel we need to have with someone, even that conversation we have with ourselves, which is very important when we talk to ourselves, through reflection and contemplation, or however you want to put that. What if we paused, just take a moment, breathe, and just reflect on these four qualities, right? So, first question is, am I approaching this person or myself with loving kindness? In other words, can I remember that just like me, they long to be happy. They don't want to suffer. Everybody's looking for happiness, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is, am I speaking from the point of compassion? In other words, will my words lessen or create less suffering for this person, or simply release my own frustration? Am I speaking to create understanding rather than simply to be heard or coming from a place of judgment? So, and on this point, compassion, I was just add that it's interesting that how much goes into the quality of compassion that one would think. But yes, and this is all from a really, really deep place. It's not just simply on the surface. You have to go much deeper than what people think. Okay, but anyway, the third quality is the rejoicing or joy, and asking yourself, can I rejoice for myself, but also for someone else's happiness? And this is can be a very tricky quality, because this really is a good antidote for jealousy. Because can I appreciate the other person's goodness, celebrate their success, even those that you consider to be people that you have really that are challenging you on certain levels, or simply seeing them as people that are really difficult and can be seen as your enemies. So can you actually recognize their humanity without comparison, without judgment, and simply look at them as everybody wants happiness, nobody wants to suffer, right? And that actually leads into my next quality, which is the one that you can ask yourself, can I rest, or can I embody this quality of equanimity or equality, seeing everybody, every single being as being equal? In other words, can I remember that every person or every being, regardless of their story, so the invitation is here to forget about stories and come into the present moment, and being in the present moment, and equally, and seeing that every being wants happiness and freedom from suffering. So can I speak honestly without trying to control the outcome? Can I remain in equanimity? Can I remain steady? Can I remain in the present moment? Can I come from a place of awareness, whatever their response may be? So, if you look at those four qualities, then communicate, then speak with honesty, and not from a place of reaction, not from fear, not from defensiveness, not trying to prove a point, not from the stories that you have created, but from a place of clarity, awareness, truth, honesty, integrity. And okay, so it doesn't mean that this conversation will become easy. And also, this is not something that develops overnight. You are simply planting the seed, like working in the garden, like nurturing the plants in the garden. It starts with planting a seed in the right season. But if you don't plant that seed, you will never see the fruits of, or see the plant of the seed that you have just planted. So in other words, in each time when we pause, reflect, and think about these qualities, or choose to respond rather than react, we strengthen these qualities within ourselves subtly. We don't even realize it. Unconsciously, it starts, and the seed, especially when the conditions and the circumstances are right, the roots will grow and the plant will grow. But we have to start planting the seed And then as we go along, we give that plant water, we give it compost and all those things. So it has to start somewhere. So again, when we cultivate these qualities of loving kindness, compassion, rejoice, joy, equanimity in our mind, it filters into our speech, and naturally it begins to reflect those same qualities in our actions and how we see people, how we treat people. And every conversation then becomes an opportunity to plant more and more seeds of kindness, understanding, and wisdom. And in this way, our words become part of the karma we are creating, the footprints, and not only for ourselves, but also for those whose lives we touch. We're not always aware of that, but it's very important to remember that. So, to wrap up for this week, just start gently, notice not only the words that you speak, but also the mind from which they arise, from which these words jump from or come from. Because every word first begins as a thought, and the thought is that seed that you are planting, and every word helps nurturing that seed. And over time, those seeds influence the way we experience ourselves. We create our own experiences through our words and actions, and yes, like in the world around us. So perhaps this is where compassion truly finds its voice. So until next week, be kind to yourself, be kind to those around you, and may our path be guided by that truth and light within us all. Namaste.